everybody, and welcome to the Rubbin' is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show, brought to you by FantasyDonks.com, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know to start playing daily fantasy sports. I'm Sean Big Papa Williams, and unfortunately, Jamie the Learjet Lear is not with us this week. He's busy doing family stuff, but he did send his picks and his analysis, and I will give you that breakdown. You're just going to have to listen to me and deal with my sexy beast self all this episode. With that said, we are at the Bank of America 500 at Charlotte Motor Speedway this week. The race is tonight, Saturday, October 10th at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's a 1.5 mile oval track, and it's raining now and will probably rain off and on all night, which means we will have, if the race can even get started, we will probably have rain delays intermittent throughout. So it's really hard to make rain adjustments for NASCAR, but we want to let you know that there is a rain situation. But I'm no Al Roker, so check out the radar, check out the live updates, and just keep in mind that it could be an added factor this week. But with that said, we've already seen one race at Charlotte this year, and it was an exciting one where some of us made some good money. But let's see who our Burn and Rubber picks are this week for you and try to help you and us win some money this week as well. My first Burn and Rubber pick for us this week is Kyle Busch. At $10,600, he's a little bit steep on the price tag, but he qualified second on a track that's traditionally harder to pass on. He has 8 top 5 finishes on this track, doesn't have a win yet, but this race will probably be dominated by both the guys that started 1-2 in the front row. Kyle or Kenseth should lead a lot of laps and be the fastest cars. Look, I'm still on Team JGR. I love it. I think it's where you still want to be. They're clearly the best cars on the track right now, and they've clearly got the best equipment, and to be honest, they have 4 of the best drivers as well. I just love Team JGR, and these guys were running really good, and that leads me right along into Lear's first pick, which is Matt Kenseth at 10-3. He qualified first and is side-by-side with his teammate. They should be able to roll Charlotte this weekend. He has 2 wins and 7 top 5 finishes here at Charlotte, and it's possible financially for you to be able to work both of them in. I think laps led and fastest laps are going to be the premiums here this week and are going to be the difference makers in what moves the people up in the GPPs. And so I want Kenseth and Busch, and Lear wants Kenseth, I want Busch. And when you get to my lineup a little bit later, you'll see I actually want both of those guys. So my next pick to burn rubber this week is that of Joey Logano. He carries the $9,700 price tag with him. And not only is he Mr. Bag of Donuts, but he's Mr. Base 50 points in DFS, meaning that you can almost always count on Joey Logano to get you to that 50-point mark, which is very pivotal for you to get a set of your drivers at least to that 50-point mark, because as we've seen, it takes well north of 200, almost 300 points, and sometimes north of 300 points to take down these GPPs. So Joey Logano is a consistent guy. I love him in cash games, and I actually really like him for GPPs because when he goes off, he can go off to a tune of 150 plus, and we've seen that several times this year. If he can make it around the JGR Toyotas, he could be the man that's leading laps and the fastest car on the track. There's not a whole lot of difference between these 3 cars, between these cars up at the top, and I really like Busch, Kenseth, and Logano, if I'm being completely honest. If you're wanting to swerve off Logano, I'll give you a little bit of bonus coverage here, and if you want to go with what I love, the JGR stack, the different parts of the JGR stack. Cousin Carl this week is 9,300, representing and looking good, and Denny Hamlin is 9,500. So if you want to jump down a little bit from Logano, you can squeeze in either Cousin Carl or Denny on your lineups to make a JGR stack. But this week, as you'll see a little bit later, I went basically Busch, Kenseth, Logano, and then we filled in with some more picks. Lear's second pick for you this week is Jeff Gordon at the $8,400 price tag. I think by now everybody that's watched this show knows my love and affection for Jeff Gordon, which is surprising to me that Lear has actually picked him this week. I mean, we all know the narrative. He's due. This is the best narrative in the history of sports. It is retirement season. He's making the chase for the cup. He hasn't won yet this year. He has 5 wins and 16 top 5 finishes on this track. The only issue here is he qualified 22nd. His car doesn't look as fast as it should, in my opinion. But at 22nd, he should be able to get you a lot of pass differential points, which I believe is why he's on Lear's lineup. And I honestly like the play at $8,400. And I like the play so much when I saw Lear's pick and looked a little bit further into it, I went ahead and adjusted and put Gordon on my lineup. But we'll get to that in just a little second, and in just a little moment. Excuse me. But now that we've got our Who's Burning Rubber plays out of the way, and I feel like I almost need to do Lear's traditional burning rubber, baby. I don't do it the same, Lear. Sorry, you're just gonna have to be here next week to do it to do that for all of us. So with that said, it's time to see who's going to the garage. And just for those of you that are new to the show, going to the garage doesn't necessarily mean that like we think that the guy is going to actually physically go to the garage. But in some instances, that's true. It could mean that the person is overqualified, could mean that the price is wrong, or it could mean that they're just on a bad streak or in a broke car that we don't like. And with that part said, I'll lead you to my pick for the Who's Going to the Garage this week, and it's Tony Stewart. And I've actually heard a lot of analysts talking about how they like Tony Stewart because of where he qualified, but which is 36th. And we've played this game before in this NASCAR season where you could pick an elite driver down low who way underqualified and he makes all the difference in the world. I don't think that's the case this week with Smoke. Something looks broke with him in his car. In practice, he was running slow and looked bad and got looking even worse. Let me run you through his practices. Practice 1, he finished at 12th in timing, running fairly decent, looking all right. In practice 2, he moved all the way down to 31st, and the car looked a lot slower. He was having issues with it, didn't seem comfortable on the track. Practice 3 to 28th, still looked uncomfortable. And then when they put the qualifying trim on the car and set up for qualifying, he qualified 36th. Now, if this was one of the premier chase guys or somebody that hadn't had issues all year, I would tell you to snatch up the driver at that price tag because he should pay off dividends. But Tony Stewart is in a world of hurt. Driving wise, I just don't like where his head's at right now with the lawsuit pending and the wrongful death suit. I just think Tony Stewart has everything else on his mind but racing, and the car's clearly got a problem with him falling off in every practice and in qualifying. So he's over a second off the pace right now, and he's almost 10 miles an hour below the guys' top speed that are in the top grouping. I just don't want to deal with a driver, even at a sexy price tag at $6,800. I don't want to deal with a guy that's having that many issues. And with that said, it brings us to Lear's pick for the Going into the Garage segment. And Lear's pick this week is the Biffle at $6,400. For Lear, it's easy this week. He was way overqualified for today's race. Just in case you don't know, the Biff qualified 4th this week. Lear thinks that he doesn't quite have the chops to hang in the 4th place range, which means he'll automatically start falling back, which means you go negative in points. And in daily fantasy NASCAR, negative points are something you cannot have. It's hard enough trying to fade Rex, but taking a driver that overqualified puts you in a hole early, and it's just something I don't like doing, and neither does Lear. And since he's cheap at $6,400, I think a lot of people will actually be on the Biff. He hasn't had a bad stretch of races. He actually had a decent point performance last week, but he's not a guy that consistently places in the top 5. And for a guy that qualified 4th, like even if he finishes top 10, it's still going to knock you back several points. I don't like the Biff, even at a $6,400 price tag, and apparently neither does Lear, as that was his pick. Now for the lineup segment of our show. As we're proud, I know this is a little bit quick hitter of a show than most of you are used to, but it's just me, so you're getting the abbreviated version, and I have a tendency to fly through information. So hopefully you enjoy the quick hit. And now it's time for our lineup segment, guys. And this is the one segment of the show that I'm really proud of here at the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR show. And Fantasy Donks is really proud of this as well. We're the only site in the industry that gives you an actual lineup that we are playing, that we are putting money on in the tournaments. And both Lear and I have entries in the tournament. And my lineup for the 5K lug nut is Kyle Busch at 10-6. We've already been over why we like Kyle this week. Not a problem. Rowdy's the man. Oh, and by the way, he has an amazing pink M&M's car for breast cancer awareness. It is really cool. So if you like the bonus paint scheme storylines, you're going to love Kyle Busch's car as well. I then have Matt Kenseth, as we've talked about. I have Joey Donuts at Logano at 9,700, and Kenseth, as I already said earlier, was 10,300. I then went with Lear's recommendation on Jeff Gordon and locked him in at 8,400. I really like that play in this lineup, which means with the amount of money I've spent, I've had to throw 2 darts at the bottom tier of drivers. And this week I went with J.J. Yeley and Landon Castle. I think both of those guys are set up to run well on this track. They're running well at speed-wise and lap-wise, which is what I look for when I look for my value drivers. Remember, the key out of these value drivers is just to try to find 20-plus points. We're hoping Kyle Busch, Kenseth, and Logano do our point duty for leading laps and fastest laps. And the way this roster is constructed, we're hoping Jeff Gordon gets us the pass differential points. And that means these 2 guys at the bottom tier just need to get their minimum base points. So as long as those 2 guys don't wreck, they should put up a 20-point spot for us, and that should be fine. And I'm really comfortable with this lineup. Like I said, you can make a little bit of variance with it. You can take out Logano if you wanted to, put in either Hamlin or Edwards. If you're feeling like you want to go more on Team JGR, that'll free up, depending on which one you go with, free up anywhere between $200 and $600. So feel free to make that adjustment there and use that to your liking. Like we said in the past, most times it's a combination of what Lear and I tell you that it takes out the GPP tournaments. With that said, here's Lear's lineup for the 5K. I'm having to read it off my phone, so forgive me for looking down. His lineup is Kenseth with Gordon, then McMurray, Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, and then Matt DiBenedetto. So he actually did something very similar to what I did in my lineup. We both had to reach down for the value plays. We're differing on the value plays. And the reason why that's the case is because these value plays are very risky. You really never know what you're going to get with them. A lot of people that play multiple lineups will set their core of drivers like we have. So, for example, my core is Busch, Gordon, Kenseth, Logano, and then they would pepper in other entries with the Castles, Yeleys, DiBenedettos, Kennedys, the Arnett's, the Jeff Burtons of the world, the Brad Moffats. Try to fit those guys in because you just don't know which one of them is going to have engine failure, which one of them is going to get caught up into a mess. So you try to make variations on that. I'm just rolling with this lineup this week, and I'm rolling with it in a couple qualifiers as well. So good luck to everybody. Hopefully I'm making the money and getting the seat to Miami. And if it's not me, hopefully it's Lear. And if it's not him, hopefully it's one of you guys. And hopefully we helped you get there. So with that said, remember to like, favorite, share the video. Follow us on YouTube. And have a great day, guys. And good luck. And let's go racing. Bye.